Jacob, I'm so excited to be here with you today. I have been waiting for this interview and I very much wanted to tell your story. So thanks for joining me today.
Thank you for having me.
And where are you now? You're home?
I am home in Florida in Crestview near Destin.
So you've spent some time away from home and it must be nice to rejoin your family.
It is nice, especially the past couple of weeks I've been here, just not really doing much. Since I was in Austin, I was just working every single day, doing everything I could, but now just relax and taking a break. It's actually kind of nice.
Which is important because you had a goal to meet
Yes.
weight-wise. hmm
All right.
And you've met it.
I did. I actually passed it. I'm 205 this morning.
Yes. And I said we would only do the interview as soon as you hit 200.
Yeah. I was like, oh, I better not mess this up.
No, that's right. You always get it done. So what I want to do today is your story and how you came to Starting Strength and to the apprenticeship had a big impact on me. Meeting you and learning about your background, um, and then you wrote this beautiful email thanking Mark Ripito and myself and the people in the company, and I just thought, well, if we were able to reach out and to help you, then maybe you could help someone else with your story, and I thought it would be important to tell it. So let's start from a place of, you're a veteran,
Yep.
and tell me a little bit about your service. Describe your military service.
Yeah, so I joined the Army right out of high school at 17 years old. I was not sure what I was going to do. I didn't want to do the family business in South Louisiana, which is being a commercial fisherman and then welding in the off season. I really didn't feel like that's where I fit in. So I decided to do something crazy. I took my ASVAB in high school, scored high enough to do whatever I wanted, still argued and chose to be an infantryman because I wanted to be something different, not just like everyone else. So 106 pounds, 2 weeks after I graduated high school, I left for the Army.
Oh
And
boy.
every day being 106 pounds at 17 and 18 and 19, and every day I was asked to quit. Like, you ready to go home yet? Are you done yet?
Really?
Because I was so small, no one expected me to even stick around. But made it through basic, made it through AIT, and I went to the 101st Airborne Division as an infantryman. And so by the time I got there, I was probably 125 pounds, so not much bigger, still tiny, still nothing really. But I was an infantryman, and in the 101st, it's one of the largest units on the planet, especially for infantry. So there was a lot of activity going on. There's a lot of training, a lot of preparation. There's no breaks. We're constantly training for combat every day, day in and day out. You go through an entire training cycle.
Yeah.
If everything works out perfectly, you go through an entire training cycle and then you do a deployment. And that's what I did. So I turned 18 in basic training, 19 just before leaving for Afghanistan, or maybe in Afghanistan, I don't remember. And then by 20 years old, after I got back from Afghanistan, I was promoted to sergeant after I went to a board and passed my board. And so before I was old enough to drink alcohol, I was a weapons squad leader in the 101st Airborne Division.
Wow. That's quite a lot of responsibility. What was your training like, and what were the deployments like?
Yeah, the training, a lot of people don't realize this, but the training is exponentially harder than the deployment. And the idea is that if we make training so difficult that you go on this deployment and it's not even an effort for you. So you can't run 5 miles and be smoked if running 5 miles is what gets you to combat. You can't be smoked when you get there. So you have to train much harder than that. You can't be tired if you ruck to the top of a mountain to do a mission. When you get to the top of the mountain, if you're tired from the ruck, you're not going to win the fight. So back home, you have to train a much further distance than that with more weight than you're going to be carrying, probably for a shorter amount of time. Everything is going to be ramped up so that it is much more difficult than combat. And then once you get to combat, it's not easy, but you've trained so hard to get there that it's not anywhere near as bad as the training was itself. And so where a lot of people think the deployment itself would be really difficult, for a lot of infantrymen, the deployment is like a break, like a finally, oh, I finally get to do what I've been training to do. And there's less rules and less stipulations about a little bit of 5 o'clock shadow on your chin and all these army things that are so strict. Once you're deployed, there's still rules in place, but it's a lot more lenient because you're kind of worried about the mission at hand rather than
Yeah.
staying perfect.
Yeah. And what were the deployments like? Um, what was it like being a young kid being deployed in this territory, and what are some of the things you've experienced?
Yeah, it was crazy to say the least, right? I was 19 in Afghanistan. So, and to be clear, I was an infantryman, not anything else. A lot of people don't realize this, but you can be just about anything you want in the military. You don't have to fight in combat. You don't have to do that at all. You can work in a pharmacy, you can work in the hospital, you can do a lot of other things that don't involve fighting on the front lines. But that's what I chose to do. And so every day in training leading up to that, could not wait to get my deployment. As an infantryman, that deployment patch on your right side is extremely important. You get a patch on your left side for where you're currently stationed at, and you get a patch on the right side for who you deployed with. So until you have that patch, you kind of feel like you don't deserve what you have. And at the same time, there's a combat infantry badge that is like a rite of passage for an infantryman. And so if you don't have one, you kind of, it's not that you don't get the respect, it's that you don't feel like you've earned their respect. So you want those things. And so to be deployed was really important for me as an infantryman. So I wanted to be there, but at the same time, when you're 19, you're kind of stupid and you don't really know what you want. And when you get to a place where the world is completely different, things kind of, your brain kind of goes through some changes and you start to realize like how serious it is, what you're doing. And especially the first time we took combat, I was driving that day. When the first time we ever took combat, I was driving and the rounds just start hitting the window on the truck. And I look next to me and my platoon sergeant was like, "Hey, congratulations, this is combat." And I was like, "Whoa!" And just like that, things start to get real serious, because it's no longer a joke. Like someone's really trying to kill you,
Mhm.
and so it's intense. It was day in and day out situations like that. Um, there were some real low times, some really high times. It was great times, great memories, great friends, but just as many good things that happened, there were bad things. So it's not a joke. It's very serious.
How did you get through those difficult times?
Some of the best leadership on the planet, period. Um, my platoon sergeant was on another level. He's one of the best leaders I've ever met in my life. I believe he's going to be a sergeant major soon already before 20 years, which is a little
Yeah.
bit unheard of. Really high level guy. Everyone who was, so the entire company didn't get to deploy. We kind of handpicked a small group of people. So we took the best that we had. And so right off the bat, we had great fighters. We had great war fighters, everyone who wanted to be there. But
Mhm.
even more than that, we had leaders like my platoon sergeant who never slacked, never slacked a second. And so anytime that someone like me who was new to it, wasn't sure what was going on, he had answers. He had everything you needed to know. If you got nervous or scared or something drastic happened, and he would pull us aside and talk to us. But at the same time, if we did something wrong, he would smoke us until we couldn't move anymore. He didn't play one side of the field or the other. It was do it right or don't do it at all. And so having that guidance, having that direction when you don't know what's going on, just follow this guy. This guy will get you there. And that's what I did. And that's what got us all through there, I believe.
The value of leadership, of good leadership, you
Good
know.
leadership. Because bad
Mhm.
leaders, uh,
Yeah,
that's
leave
a
leave
whole
you
other
stranded.
topic.
Yeah, well, your life is at risk. So, there's a lot of parallels listening to you speak now. It's just there's a lot of parallels that you draw between military service and the leadership you receive there and the leadership at Starting Strength gyms. And we'll certainly get into that and why that was attractive to you. But tell me a little bit about what it was like to leave the military, to leave that sense of direction that you were going in and the leadership and the brotherhood. What was it like exiting the military?
Yeah. So the military, like I was saying earlier, it's really high and really low. And so you don't get this 9 to 5 job where everything's the same every day down the middle. You get these great best day of your life followed by the worst days of your life. And so in those back and forths, some people that like me decide to get out before 20 years. Some people will stay 20 years, but like myself, I just was like, this is not where I see myself for the next 20 years. So I'm gonna move on and do something else. But like a lot of people in my situation, especially when you're day in and day out training to be the best. And sure, we're the best in combat, but the mindset is you're the best at everything. You're the best, period. And so when they're saying, hey, make a plan when you get out, you're like, I don't need a plan. I'm ready. I can do it right now. And so that's what I did, like an idiot. I just got out thinking, look, I'm just going to wing it. If I put in 10% of my effort, I can be a civilian. It can't be that hard. And then you get out, and I did what a lot of people do. I went home. I started working in the hometown stuff. Is so in South Louisiana where I live, it's you're either a fisherman where you're catching crawfish and crabs and shad and all these types of fish, or you can go to be like a welder or pipe fitter or something like that for the oil field.
Yeah.
And so I actually worked as a clutch mechanic for marine boats. So a lot of the boats going in and out of the Gulf, the clutch that connects right to the propeller and controls the gears, that was what I worked on for a little over a year.
Mhm.
And I mean, if that's what you're interested in and you like that day in and day out, everything's the same and monotonous and there's really no progression, but you're getting a paycheck, the money's good, but nothing ever changes. If that's what you like, you want to work until you're 60, then by all means, it's great.
Mhm.
But being an infantryman who is trying to be the best, trying
Yeah.
to make it to somewhere different, trying to be something different, it quickly set in on me that I felt like I was wasting my time. Even though I was getting paid, I was making money, doing things and paying for my vehicles and kind of setting myself up for life. I still felt like I was wasting my time because
Mhm.
I didn't make a plan. I had no idea what I was doing. I was just working. And when you go from being an infantryman whose job is extremely important, people take it very seriously. And then you get out and you go to a place where even the boss didn't really care if he went to work
Yeah.
that day. You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
it's really hard to be motivated and work hard for a company when their mission isn't really that important and they don't even feel like it's that important, and the progress you can make is 1 or 2 promotions max if you stay there for 20 years,
Mhm.
and at the end of the day you've made millions of dollars for someone else and they don't really care.
And not much of a difference. And where's the feeling of excelling in something and
Right. You
bettering
get
yourself?
exactly. I got none of that from working in the oil field. It's just a lot of hard work, honest money. If that's your thing, it's
Mhm.
great. But if you're
Mhm.
trying to be something different, it just didn't sit right with me. And so I started to get real empty, real just unsure what I was doing, what I was going to do, where I was going from here. And so I started to freak out a little bit because
Mhm.
I was like, man, I really should have made a plan because this is a lot harder than I thought it was going to be.
Yeah.
And just trying to stay in that lane as an infantryman, as an army guy, you're so used to this structure, and your job is this, my job is this. We do our jobs, and at the end, they come together if we both perform properly.
Mhm.
But when you get into like a civilian workplace, people are in and out of their lanes and stepping on toes, and
Mhm.
nothing really makes sense. And so you kind of just want to step back and be like, I don't know what the hell is going on here, but I don't
Mhm.
want any part of it. So
Mhm.
that's just where I started to find myself not too long after getting out.
Mm. And what prompted you to reach out to me? Um, what resonated with you? How did you find? Well, I know that you had found Starting Strength
Right.
earlier than seeing, John's video, but what prompted you to reach out?
So ultimately, it was John's video. That's what
A-
it was.
And
It
this is
was
John Miller of
John Miller,
Outlaws Inc. Hmm.
another warrior. So it was, and that's what it was going to take. Honestly, it was it was really like I told him. It was an anchor that broke the camel's back, not the straw. It once it was another infantryman, another person from the army, someone who was very specific to my situation, made it clear to me that I was welcome at Starting Strength. That's all it took. So before that, like I said, I was getting kind of questionable in the oil field. I wasn't sure what I was going to do. So I was like, I'm
Hmm.
just going to use my GI Bill and go to school, make some
Yeah.
money in the meantime, and try to figure out what I was doing. I was going to school not because I really wanted to be in school, but
Hmm.
because I knew I could get paid from the GI Bill and kind of just not work and trying to figure out what I was going to do. So
Yeah.
I started doing some school, did some computer programming. I really enjoyed it, some game design. It was fun. But the closer I got to actually working in that field, the more I realized that's not really what I want to do.
Hmm.
Um, and so I kept trying different things. My brother-in-law and I, we did the commercial fishing thing for a little while. We caught crawfish, caught frogs,
Hmm.
a lot of South Louisiana stuff. Fun, good money, still wasn't feeling it. And so things started to get real tight and real hard on us. And my wife decided that she was going to join the Air Force. She always wanted to, but she always lets me do whatever I want to do first. And since I joined the army, she couldn't, she could have joined, but it would have made things really hard. So she just waited. And since we were kind of slowly going into debt, both of us working in South Louisiana, she was like, well, why don't I just join? This will clear up the debt we have. It'll make things a lot easier on us. And so she did. Like, a strong woman. She joins the Air Force and with no problems at all makes it right into it. So we end up getting stationed in Florida. Hurricane hits. We end up getting moved to Colorado. And this is where Starting Strength showed up for me because I was pretty much on my last straw. I was like, look, I gotta try something else because everything I've been trying has given me nothing. And by this point, I'm extremely depressed. My anxiety is just taking over because I don't know. As a man, I don't know what I'm doing. I can't support my family right now. Well, and I'm like freaking out. I can't really work anywhere that makes me happy. If I work to support my family, my mental health goes down. If I try and help my mental health, my family goes down. And so I'm freaking out. Right. And so I was like, look, I'm gonna use my GI Bill and I'm gonna go to a personal training school and try to be a personal trainer because this is pretty much the last place I see myself fitting in.
Hmm.
And it was at the school. Basically, the way the school worked, we would do lectures in the morning and we would get a partner and write a program for them to work out in the evenings. And
Hmm.
so every evening, it became clear after a while that I was writing strength training programs for everyone. I did not care what your goals were, they were going to be doing strength training.
Hmm.
And the instructor kind of picked up on this after a while and pulled me aside and gave me the blue Starting Strength book.
Hmm.
And he was adamant. He was like, you can't keep this,
Good guy.
but you can read it and give it back to me.
Hmm.
And so that was mostly what made me read it too, because I was like, why does he think this book is so important? I was interested. Like, he wants his book back. And so I busted it open and read the squat chapter. And I
Hmm.
was, for the first time, I was like, I've been at this school for 3 months, going on 4 months.
Yeah.
And this is the first time that I actually read something about fitness that I was looking for. It's like, this
Hmm.
is how you squat, and this is why. And there's no other way around it. This is how it works. And I was like, oh, that's exactly what I'm looking for. And so I kept reading the book. Come to find out, they were about to open the Denver location
Yeah.
at the end of that year. So I was in school in 2019 and that gym opened up late 2019. And so it
Hmm.
was a couple of months after I had got the book that the gym was going to open. So I had been in talks with the
Awesome.
owner. I was trying to be an apprentice there, but I had just read the squat section. So I was not ready
Hmm.
to be an apprentice.
Hmm.
Um,
You started lifting on your own, trying to figure it out on your own.
I did. I was progressively getting weaker at the school doing all these personal trainer things, all these isolation movements and balancing on a ball and all this
Mhm.
other stuff. I was getting weaker. Every time I tested my max squat or my max deadlift, it would be lower every single time. And I was
Mhm.
really starting to get concerned. Um, and so then I started doing starting strength. And within a month, I was PRing everything for five, not just one. Like all of my old one rep PRs were now fives, and it wasn't even hard. It's too easy. Um, and so I was like, I'm gonna go see what this gym is about. I'm gonna do it.
And
And
that
I
was Starting
still,
Strength, Denver with Jay. Jay's the owner.
yes. And I was still like skeptical. I was like, sure, it's just doing squats. Like what's so
Right.
crazy about it, right? But the more I did it and the more it worked and the stronger I got really fast strength in the beginning. And then I went to this squat camp with
Mhm.
Rip. Rip himself showed up to the squat camp.
Lucky guy.
And it was a combination of everything that was going on, right? So I was lost. I didn't know what I was going to do next. I needed a leader to point me in the right direction. I can work hard. I can do what I have to do, but I don't come up with the plan that well. I'm not very good at that. So I need someone to kind of show me what the plan is and I can execute it. And it was when I met Rip that Rip was not like anyone else I've ever met. Rip knows what his plan is, he knows what his goal is, and you can either come along with his
Mhm.
journey or you can get out.
Yeah.
And that you could sense that right away. And
Mhm.
so I was intrigued, like, what is this man talking about? He is not messing around. He's very serious about small things on the
Mhm.
squat. And the more he talked, the more we would ask questions. He would have such basic answers to things that are always overthought in the fitness industries. Just do it this way. This is all you got to do.
Mhm.
Oh, you're not strong enough. You probably need to eat more. You're 140 pounds. You're way underweight. That's not normal. Like I was 140 pounds when I was there, by the way.
Yeah.
So,
It's an accomplishment.
and it was it was crazy. Just he, in a weird way, he risks his brand to prove his point. Like he doesn't care if the truth makes you not like starting strength.
That's right.
It's not going to hurt his feelings if you don't believe him. It's right. It is the way it is for a reason. And
Mhm.
if you're a 140-pound skinny guy and you're trying to tell him it doesn't work, then you obviously didn't do the program. And
Mhm.
so all of this, I was lost. I was getting really strong on my own. I barely read the book. Then the way Rip is just kind of caught my attention as a leader. And so it all kind of connected. And I was like, you know what? I'm going to do this thing. Let's see what happens. And so I just graduated as personal training school. I just got my NASM certification. And I went from gym to gym looking for a job. And I brought the book with me, the book and my portfolio from school. I was like, look, I
Good.
don't know if you guys know what this is, but if you hire me, this is what I'm going to do. I want to use
Nice.
this on as many people as I can possibly use it on.
Nice.
And it was 2 or 3 gyms I went to. And then finally, a guy, um, I sat down with a personal training manager, and he was like, look, this stuff usually doesn't sell. I'm gonna be honest with you, but I'll let you give it a shot. And that's all I needed. That's all I needed.
Mm.
So I started working at Zone Athletic Club in Denver. And it was quick. As soon as I got a client to do the movements, it was in the beginning, I was scared. I was super nervous because you're telling people, look, you're going to do all of these heavy lifting movements and you're going to get the result you want. But I honestly didn't even know yet. I was
Right.
just trusting Rip and trusting the book that I had read.
Mhm.
So I'm going into it with this confidence that's not real. I'm like, this is what we're going to do and this is what it's going to do to you. I had no idea if it was going to work. I was really hoping it was going to work.
Because you hadn't fully experienced it for
No,
yourself.
no, I had been doing it for like 2 months. And I mean, as we know, 2 months when you read the book yourself, you don't even know what you're doing.
No.
Your form is terrible. You're not doing anything right. But I went for it. And every single client that I trained with starting strength saw improvement. And
Mhm.
not just strength improvement. It was, I had an older client, Greg. I want to say he was like 74, could barely squat halfway down without weight, without falling off balance.
Mhm.
We started with box squats, just the body weight. We did the progression from step by step, a little bit high, a little bit lower, a little bit lower till he was at depth, took the box away, threw the bar on. Next thing you know, this guy was squatting over 100 pounds.
It's great.
And every time he would come in, it was, man, I can't believe my knees don't hurt anymore. Like,
Mhm.
dude, my back quit hurting. Like, I got out of my bed yesterday, no pain. And he was never interested in the weight on the bar. He didn't care, like, oh, today I squatted 120. It was, oh, my knees, man. I thank you so much for my knees. And they would come in the beginning, they were questionable.
Mhm.
They weren't sure what we were doing. But after a few weeks, they were like, whatever you say. They didn't even care anymore. They're like, it works so well that I'm just going to do whatever you tell me to do. They stopped
Yeah.
paying attention. They stopped
Mhm.
caring at all.
Arguing. Yeah, no
They're just,
argument.
they're like, how many sessions do I have left? Oh, I need to get some more. There's on top of it. They're not questioning their training. They just want to be there because they see
Mhm.
the results happening.
Mhm.
And this happened to every single client. Not one person that I trained did not see results. And when I just came from a personal training school doing all the personal training stuff, and I saw that that stuff was hit or miss, big time
Mhm.
hit or miss, and the person had to enjoy what you were doing, and it was overcomplicated, it was hard to write.
Mhm.
Then you switch to this simple thing: just do these movements the
Yeah.
right way with 5 pounds, and it'll change everything. And
Mhm.
so I exploded as a trainer, and I had never been a personal trainer. I had no idea what I was doing. And before long, I was one of the best personal trainers at the gym
Mhm.
when I came with nothing. I had no clients beforehand. I didn't bring clients with me. I didn't have
Mhm.
friends in Denver that I could get to show up. Nothing. From nothing, I was on top with the
Mhm.
guys who had been trainers for years. One of my friends, um, you had actually talked to him, Matt. Matt
Yeah.
had been a personal trainer for quite some time. He almost has a doctorate. He's almost a doctor. He just needs to do the post grad stuff and do the studies, and he'll be a doctor. And it was when I realized him and I were pretty close to the same level, I was like, oh, this starting strength stuff is very serious. Like, I caught up
Mhm.
very fast just by reading this book to a lot of these personal trainers.
Mhm.
And it was from there that I was like, this is it. This is what I'm gonna do. If I can, I felt like the more effort I put in to starting strength, the more I got out of it.
Mhm.
And for
Mhm.
me, that was perfect. That was everything. I needed something that didn't have a cap on it. Like, oh, you can work your hours, but you'll never be up here. I needed something like you can get as much as you want to put in. And that's what
Yeah.
I did.
Yeah, you want the freedom to excel. You want to work hard at
Exactly.
something and the freedom to excel. And you know, it speaks a lot to your determination. I have a lot of people who were struggling during the COVID shutdowns to, you know, educate themselves, to see clients, to further their training. And some people had good reason. Others were just kind of like, you know, gave up or weren't willing to fight for it and had a lot of excuses. But you've been through a lot, and um, you had a successful training business, and then the pandemic yet again was something else that knocked you back.
Yeah. And that was actually pretty crazy. That was another experience that showed me how serious starting strength was. When the pandemic hit, everyone had to quit working for a certain amount of time, right? Everyone
Mhm.
had to stop. But once that initial few weeks passed and sporadic businesses started to open up, we were given the choice to come back to work if you had clients or continue accepting your unemployment. Right? We didn't have to go back to work at first.
Mhm.
But I had clients. I had clients messaging me, asking me, like, yo, when are we going to lift?
Mhm.
Like, these clients were at the point where they're like, I'm about to come to your house if I can't come to the gym and squat. Right. And I had already had my friends, Matt had started to come train Adam out of my garage because he realized how good starting strength was because I was
Mhm.
doing it to so many people. He was like, let me
Mhm.
try it. And I started coaching him and his numbers start skyrocketing. And
Nice.
another friend of mine, Garrett, he worked the front desk. Same thing, got him to start
Mhm.
doing it.
Mhm.
It took me a little while to chip away at him because he's not that type of person who's just always about put on the heavy weights. He's not that kind of guy. But once
Yeah.
we got him to move it, his attitude started to change a little bit. Once he
Yeah.
put
Yeah.
up 315 on the
Mhm.
squat, he was a different person. And so every time I saw someone experience it, and then like that light turns on where they're like, holy crap, this fitness thing actually works. And these are people in the fitness industry who hadn't quite had that light yet, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it was that they want people wanted to train with me out in my garage. People middle of the pandemic asking me to go back to work. Like it was all of this that kind of showed me like how serious starting strength can be.
How valuable it is to people to maintain
Right.
their strength
To
and their
maintain their
health.
strength. They didn't want to lose their strength at all.
That's right. And that's different than any other basic fitness. But so you hit another bump in the road with the closures and the pandemic. You were telling me it set you back, and then you saw the podcast with John Miller and Mark Ripito,
Right.
and you told me that you felt like it was speaking directly to you, and it was exactly what you needed to hear. And tell me a little bit about, um, what it was that spoke to you, where you were, what headspace you were in when you heard the podcast, and what it's been like, what it was like when what prompted you to reach out to me, and what it was like working with John, because there's a whole component there, to help bridge the gap between veterans who are coming out of service and, you know, before you start the apprenticeship, there's that middle time for you. And, what was that like for you?
Right. Yeah. So by the end of the year in 2020, the pandemic had chilled out and we kind of went back to working normal. And so I started to feel like I was getting back into it. And then the Air Force moved my wife to Florida, here to
Mm.
Destin, where we're at now. And so I just went through all that struggle through the pandemic to keep my clients, to keep my business going. And then we get moved, which is fine. I mean, that's why we signed up. We know the sacrifice, but I lost all my clients, right? I moved to Florida. Still kind of, Florida's cool about everything, but individual businesses are not always cool. And so it was
Right.
kind of hard to find a job at a gym late last year, or hell, in January this year. Was no one even wanted to message you back when you were putting in applications, because they were just like, I don't know right now, right? And so I was sitting here, my wife was at work, and it's a Friday, and I'm in the mindset of, what the hell am I gonna do, man? Now I gotta find more clients. Now I gotta find another job. I just did all of this, and now I'm back into the same boat. And I'm sitting here, I got this podcast playing, and it's John's story, and John's specific story. He got hurt and had to get out. So it didn't really relate to me that much, his specific story. But I was listening to it because he was another infantryman and he was on the podcast with Rip. So I'm going to listen. And it was at the end of the podcast, when they start talking about veterans transitioning out. And Rip made a very specific statement. He was like, oh, yeah, a lot of these guys that probably joined because they had a rough childhood, probably had an abusive parent, decided to join the army because they didn't know what the hell else they were going to do. And then they decided to get out and still don't know what the hell they're going to do. And then you end up in depression and all these other problems when you could have just had a plan. And I mean, hit me in my heart with that because that was me, step by step, rough
Was that?
childhood, joined the army, got out without a plan. And I was like, man, this dude has answered every question I've had so far about anything I've had. And now here he is, knows my exact situation. And then from there, so I was listening now. Now I'm like, what is he talking about? And Rip looks dead at the camera, right in the lens. And he's like, if this is you, you need to get with John. And I was like, holy shit, I'm going to message John right now. So I played that part over and over again, just to make sure I heard it correctly. And I was like, man, okay, I guess he's talking to me. So I was like, I got to do this. I was like, I want to be in. I've trained it. I've read the books. I've
Yes.
done what the website says to do, but I wasn't confident yet. I didn't know if I deserved it yet. And so I was like, whatever. I'm just going to do it. I'm going to see what happens. The worst case scenario, at least I know who I am.
Yeah.
Right. And so I messaged John like right away. And at the same time messaging John, I went on the website and signed up for the apprenticeship program on the website, where it emails you directly, I believe.
Mm-hmm.
So I did both of those at the same time. And I think that was Friday. John's scheduled to talk with me on Monday morning. And you actually talked to me on Sunday morning or
Mm-hmm.
Sunday whatever time, but it was the day before I actually talked to John. So y'all both got back to me the same day and we're like, yeah, let's talk on this day, schedule a time. And so
I
I was
remember. I
I was
remember
not
our phone
sure.
call.
Yeah, I was not sure what was gonna happen. I didn't know if I needed to be ready to answer questions. I didn't know if I needed to know about gym locations. I was like, I have no idea what I'm doing, but Rip said I should do this. So
Mhm,
here I go. And
mhm,
sure enough, y'all are just people, just people who just want to know, not necessarily trying to promote a brand. We love Starting Strength, but you weren't, I don't remember if you even tried to sell me on Starting Strength at all. You were just asking me why I wanted to be part of Starting Strength and
mhm,
what I have done and how my past and how I got here and how I found Starting Strength.
mhm.
And it was, I hadn't even answered those questions for myself yet, right? And so when we had that phone call and we ended the call, I was sitting there thinking like, man, that was crazy. I didn't know that was gonna happen because you were like, yeah, well, I don't usually do this, but I'm gonna connect you with some coaches, and I couldn't believe it. Because just prior to that, me and my wife, we would always joke like, how cool would it be if I got to work at a Starting Strength gym? Ha ha ha, that would be great. Never thinking this was gonna happen for 3-4 years at most or at
Yeah.
soonest, right? And so I end up in this call with you, end up talking to John, and John's like, yeah, I think you're a great fit. I think we're gonna get you in and we're gonna see what we can do. And I was dumbfounded. I didn't even know what I was gonna do. I went from in this hole to like, man, I just lost everything. And then you threw me in like, no, we're gonna do it right now. And it was again that fire that I felt from meeting Rip and deciding I was gonna do Starting Strength. The same thing when I'm told, look, I'll give you an opportunity. It's up to you to do something with it.
That's
That's
right.
all I need. That's
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 right.
literally all I need. And there's a lot of people out there who are in my similar situation who just need an opportunity. That's the hardest part. Is just getting an opportunity, and not for a company, for someone who wants you to work for them and make their money and help them sell their product. It's not like that at all. They want
No.
Starting Strength wants you to be good so that you can make money
Mhm,
bringing Starting Strength to other people. It's kind of like your
mhm,
own business thing, even though
mhm,
it's not, but
mhm.
it can be if you want. But it's such a different vibe when the company isn't out to get you in a
Yeah.
weird way. It's hard to explain, right? And I'm just
You're
working
not the
together now.
product. You're not the product.
Right.
Mhm,
And to feel like everyone who I talked to, their best interest was in me
mhm,
being a coach. How
mhm.
good can you I be as a coach? What can I do to learn? What can I do to find a gym? It wasn't about, hey, here's how we like to do things because it makes us the most money. It wasn't like that at all.
No. And so you worked with, what was it like, working with Outlaws Inc.? What was your experience? What was John able to help you with? Kind of support did you receive?
John didn't really get to do much because I had talked to you already. And
Mhm,
so because I had got to you first, John, I kind of took the plate out of his hand and
mhm,
was already on my way into the gym.
mhm,
John is really good at getting people connected with you who haven't really gotten to talk to you yet.
mhm, mhm,
In this, in Starting Strength, it's like there's a couple of people who, like you specifically, who if you CC a bunch of people in an email and say, hey, this person needs to get pushed through, then that person gets pushed through. John's one of those people who can do that same thing. You and
mhm.
John can CC some people in an email. First off, they know the people that need to be messaged, right? And
Right.
at the same time, everyone takes their word very seriously. So
Yes.
they know they're not messing around. And so if you can get in your graces or John's graces and let them know this is what I want, this is why I want it,
Mhm.
then you both can connect people with the right person for them.
And
And
you were connected to Starting Strength Austin for an apprenticeship opportunity because you said, like, well, first of all, we didn't mention that you have children.
yes,
So tell me your daughter's names and how old they are.
I got two daughters, a 5-year-old and a 2-year-old. My 5-year-old's name is Zelda,
Mhm,
and my 2-year-old's name is Saria.
mhm.
Both girls. Big headache for dad, but it is what it is. I love them to death. And at the same time, I got my wife who's active duty Air Force. So
Mhm. And you had to leave. You said, I'll do anything for this apprenticeship opportunity. And you had to leave your family, your wife and your children, yet again,
right,
with your wife's support, which is incredible, to take this opportunity at Starting Strength Austin, where Coach Rutherford, Nicole and Jason were coaching out of at the time, and they took you into their family, into their team. Tell me a little bit about what it was like to connect with Starting Strength Austin, and what your experience was apprenticing there, because now you're moving on to Boston to gain experience there. So, what was it like when you actually went from I'm being placed to, now I'm in this place and now it's all strangers again?
yeah,
Not really, but what was the apprenticeship like?
it was it was just as life changing, if not more, than when I first came across Starting Strength. So when you first come across the book, you start training, everything goes up. You get exponentially stronger than you were. Your knowledge expands. You realize how much you need to know and how much you don't know. It's just one of those moments.
Yes, yes.
The same thing happened when I got to the gym. So I had been training it for a year on my own, thinking I'm pretty good. I'm not too bad. That's what I was thinking. And I get to this gym, and within the first couple of days, I realized like these coaches are on another level.
Mhm.
It's one thing to see them and learn from them. It's another thing to try and learn what they are teaching. It's to see the vast amount of knowledge. So I got the offer from Nicole, and I was like, I'll be there in 2 weeks. That's when I can be there, because that's how long it took me to get an Airbnb to let me go. So my wife is great. She was like, whatever you want to do, because she understands like kind of where I am mentally, kind of where I need to be, she understands I'm trying to get out of this situation, desperately trying to
Good
do
woman.
whatever I have to do. So she allows me to do those things, and eventually it will pay off. It's already starting to pay off.
Yes.
So I get to this gym, and I want to say like the first 3 days, I didn't even talk. They were pretty concerned. They were concerned because I didn't talk at all, but I was overwhelmed with knowledge and information and cues and
The environment, the gym.
environment,
Mhm.
everything, and all these new people that I'm trying to learn their names, because now I'm an apprentice at the gym and they know my name because I'm one person, but I'm meeting 50 different people, and so I'm overwhelmed. And so the first week I was really thought like, did I make a mistake? Because I don't know if I can be this good. I don't know if I can be as good as these guys are. And it wasn't that I felt like I couldn't learn the cues, but I wasn't sure that I could learn the cues and give them out as quickly as the coaches do. And I learned quite a bit. I'm nowhere near as good as they are, but I learned that it comes with time, of course. But
Yes.
I mean, they were seeing mistakes that I saw the mistake, and after the set was over, we could talk about the mistake, but they were able to see the mistake and correct the mistake instantly in one
Mhm.
rep, not 3 reps, not all 5 reps, fix the mistake instantly.
Mhm.
And so I was like, these guys are so good. Like, I
Mhm.
don't even see what they're fixing, but they fix it and it looks better. And
Eh,
so I was overwhelmed, but I'm not a quitter. And
No,
so
you're
I'm
not.
gonna I'm gonna do this thing and we'll see what happens.
I remember staying in touch with you and checking in on you, and you were like, "Holy cow!" And I'm like, "Hang in there. It's gonna get
Yeah.
a lot more streamlined for you." You joined a really good team, and you had other apprentices there, right? So, I imagine there's somebody who's watching this video is in your position, and they're thinking like, it's kind of scary to walk into a new setting, but I try to explain to them that the coaches who are going to be mentoring you are just as invested in you as we are, as you had hoped they would be. And then there's other apprentices who are in your position as well, working alongside of you. You had a really great crew in Austin, right?
Yeah. And like an unbelievable type of team. Like from day one, they brought me in and were the nicest, coolest people. Like not fake nice, not trying to be cool. Like immediately were like, okay, you're an apprentice, you're part of the team. This is how we're doing it. Welcome to the show.
Mhm,
And like they were kind of taken back because I wasn't open right away. I wasn't,
mhm.
hey, I'm the new friend. I didn't really understand the vibe. Like, no, they're like, no, we're cool now. Like we're friends. Everyone's friends here. We're all
Mhm,
in this thing together. And I mean, the Nicole and Jason, I mean, just I I owe them a lot. I mean, the amount of the teaching moments they take advantage of,
yeah.
the opportunities they use when they could not have to stay after class, they could go home. They're not under a contract that says they have to go out of their way to help the apprentice at all. It's the
Mhm,
apprentice's job to show up to class and learn
mhm,
out of their way every single time there was a chance. Anytime there was a opportunity to learn something, we would learn. If there was free time between things, we were learning, talking about different cues, why we're doing cues, different programming,
mhm.
everything.
And your own training
Yeah,
improved.
right. And my own training like exponentially improved because there's form creep for a lot of people. If you get into it you'll learn about it, but it just kind of you start messing up things on your own because you see the same thing every day and it kind of slowly gets worse. So
Mhm,
my form creep had obviously been happening because I was training myself for a year
mhm.
and I hadn't really been to many events to fix that. But when I got there, having the coach watch every rep,
Mhm.
every set, there were small things that I had to fix, but once I fixed them, I mean, it was more knowledge. I was like, oh, I see how this works. That
Mhm.
feels different. That feels right. And it's when you're on your own, you read the book and hips,
Mhm.
hips. So you can get hips, and the next thing you know, you're doing a good morning because it because hips wasn't for you. You don't
Right.
lost the hips.
That's right.
And when you're on your own, you don't know. You can't really tell
Mhm,
when that cue is no longer what you should be using.
mhm,
And so that was something that was really great to learn. Now, then I got to experience, okay, here's you're doing hips right. That was a good cue 3 months ago. Now it's not a good cue. Obviously, things change. And so I got to fix my thing. All of my weight started going up. I had to drop everything.
And
That
what are you squatting and deadlifting now? Or what were the biggest numbers you've hit so far?
so yesterday, I'm still doing a linear progression because I started gaining weight. When I
Nice.
first got there, I was in like intermediate programming, but I
Yeah.
was 170 and I wasn't gaining weight anymore. And so once I started gaining weight again, the linear progression kicks back up. I had reset my
Mhm,
weights anyway to do a linear progression to kind of catch back with my
mhm.
form. I started eating, I'm gaining weight, the weights are light. So I just kept going. Yesterday, I squatted pull my notebook out here because I write all this down.
Good, good.
355 squat
Nice.
for a set of five. I
Awesome.
did a 175 press and a 410 deadlift for a set of five.
Congratulations. And now you weigh 205.
Now I weigh over
You
200.
are you are almost ready to go hang out with Rip.
Almost. I'm coming.
Yes.
Close.
I know that you are. I mean, you've come so far, and now you're getting ready to do a stint in Boston. So exciting that Starting Strength Boston is opening. Arthur is the owner there, and you'll continue your apprenticeship. And you and I stay connected, and I give you the next opportunity that's at for your level, and you decide whether you want to take advantage of it or whether it fits your life at this time. And what's remarkable about this apprenticeship program is if you just do your part, right?
Mhm.
The opportunities, like you said, are there in front of you, whether it's something you need at this moment because you have to be away from your family, or there's some limitations to down the road, 6 months later you're in a different position. Like, you can take advantage of many opportunities that are put in front of you as an apprentice. And I know that you talked about the discipline and the structure of military life that you were longing for, and that ability to accelerate and to work harder and to achieve, and that really being parallel to Starting Strength. But um, how else do you think that the Starting Strength apprenticeship, or why do you think it's a good fit for veterans in particular? Because I speak to a lot of veterans, and I know they talk to me as much about missing the structure as they do missing the brotherhood.
Hmm.
And what do you think? Um, what do you think they have in common? Why is the apprenticeship a good fit for veterans?
So from what I've seen in the apprenticeship, I've said this a couple times to the coaches, but the apprenticeship is actually set up exactly like the army sets up your progression to becoming a sergeant, becoming an NCO is what it's called. And so to run through that, you join the army, right? You sign up and you show up. They don't really care how strong you are, how fast you can run. That's kind of their job in basic training to teach you, right? So you show up as a level zero, we'll call it, like an apprentice.
Hmm.
No experience, don't really care about your knowledge background. We'll teach you. And so that's what it starts as. And then you make it through that. Now you're a level one. We understand that you're not a coach, but you're not brand new, right? So we're still teaching you, but we expect you to kind of know some things. And then it goes up from there. You get promoted. You're not a private anymore. You're a specialist in the army or a corporal if you're lucky enough.
Hmm.
This is before um, this is before you get to NCO. So this is before you take your oral board, right? So you've proven you are good enough to kind of do some team leader work, kind of help
Hmm.
train some people, kind of pull your own weight. But ultimately, if you want to be an NCO in the Army, you have to sit in front of a board of sergeant majors who are going to ask you questions about your job. And their job is ultimately to prove to you why you don't deserve to be promoted. And it's not a mean thing, it's to pull the only the people who deserve it through.
Hmm.
And so that's what I did in the Army. I became an NCO step by step, went from knowing nothing to knowing a little bit to helping train a little bit to being an NCO. That's what I did. So the apprenticeship is set up the same way. You show up level zero. You're not teaching anyone anything. You're going to stand there and shut up and listen. That's all you're doing. And that's fine because there's a lot of information to learn. Then you get to a level one where they understand you know a little more. We don't have to teach you the 3x5. We can talk about other stuff now, but you're still not really teaching. Then you can pass your platform and you can teach a little bit. You're not a coach, but you can teach a bit. And then you go to the oral board. You pass the oral board where they're going to ask you questions and prove that you deserve to be there. And then you get to be a coach. It's the same process to be an NCO in the Army. Same exact process. So when I kind of saw that, everyone says, "Oh, the oral board, the oral board," and all I could think was, "Man, I sat in front of 5 sergeant majors of the Army who were not nice, and I was able to get promoted through that."
Hmm.
And so, talking to some guys about some information that I enjoy, some stuff that if I fail it, I still learn something. I mean, I saw no downside to the progression through apprenticing. It was like this is how it should work. This shows me that the people who are coaches should be coaches,
That's right.
and
And
there's no question.
it's lived up to your expectations, I see.
Absolutely. I mean,
Yeah.
I've not met a coach yet that doesn't blow my mind in some sense. Like the coaches, not everybody has to have a degree, but some of them do. And so being a starting strength coach is already a great thing. But when you've got a starting strength coach who's got a physics degree or something, like these
Hmm.
guys are on another level. And so it's just all these different brains that you can pick from and learn. And everyone
Always.
wants to help you. It's not like they're holding their information for themselves and they don't
That's
want you
right.
to join the team. It's like, oh, you don't know this? Let me draw it up for you so you can understand it.
That's right. That's right. And you join in your apprenticeship, you join a team, a family. And I tell a lot of veterans that I speak to that that sense of brotherhood is returned to you. And that's been the
Right.
experience of people like you is that, you know, the people you're being mentored by and the coaching team and the group of apprentices that you're working with also. It's that brotherhood, it's that teamwork
Right.
along with the structure and the ability to excel,
Hmm.
and then the physical, you know, kind of strength and mental fortitude that you're building for yourself. It just becomes, you know, a perfect package for people who are, you know, veterans, have a
Right.
lot of military service and are interested in strength training themselves.
Yeah.
And it
Yes.
really, I knew that you were a special candidate, because you were so passionate when we spoke over the phone. um, and I knew that you're right at the right stage. You've done all the things that you needed to start your apprenticeship, and all you needed was an opportunity.
Mhm.
And if you could go back in time, what would you tell yourself about transitioning out of the military?
Whew. Have a plan. Stop ignoring everyone who's telling you to have a plan. Do
Mhm,
not think that you can do this on your own. Make a damn plan. That's that's it. That's really the biggest thing. It wasn't just a plan to what I was going to do, because that was a plan in my mind. Like, I'm just going to get out and wing it. That's my plan.
mhm,
That's not a plan.
mhm,
I hadn't decided yet what my next passion was going to be. I'm giving 110% effort to the army. I don't have time to think about what I want to do next. I was just thinking I'll do anything next. That was a bad idea. It's not a good plan. You
mhm.
need to know what is next, so that when you get out, you can give it your all. Because if you try to slow down, there all that stuff catches up with you.
Mhm,
And so then you got this whirlwind of emotions, and it's not fun. It's
mhm,
terrible.
mhm.
You need to have a plan. Decide what you want to do before you get out. If that means you have to sign another contract or an extension, then so be it.
Mhm.
An extra few years with guaranteed money and a nice place to stay is much better than getting out and crashing your family into the ground. It's not a good idea. It's terrible. And it took me almost 5 years to kind of get myself together to where I could start going forward again. It was
Mhm.
not a good experience. I wish I would have taken the time. And if that meant signing another contract, then so be it. Take more time, find what I want to do. If I had found starting strength before I got out, it would have been a no brainer, because it
Yeah.
would have made me stronger while I was in. It would have improved my performance. And then I still would have wanted to get out. There was a bunch of different reasons that I decided to get out, but it was just having that next thing. I didn't have that next thing. And so when you step out of this pedestal, when you step down off of this great thing that you're doing to nothing, is terrible. It's terrible.
Yes, and that's why we partnered with Outlaws Inc. because John has this unique ability to see from the starting strength perspective, but also from the perspective of being a veteran from the military,
Mhm.
and somebody who's been through hardship and had to rebuild himself physically and mentally. And I know his passion is to help more veterans find their path to an apprenticeship, which will help them develop a plan and get that stability and get them on the right path. And I'm just so excited to see where your future will take you, because I think we'll come back and do another video visit like this, after you've passed your platform and become a starting strength coach, and when you're in a leadership position mentoring others, which I know that you will be a great mentor to new apprentices because you've gone through it all now. I look forward to seeing you take your place as a coach and start to teach others, because I think you'll be darn good at it. And I think that you'll be able to help a lot of people out there who could use a helping hand, people who were in your position. And I know that one of the things you said to me when I said, please, can we do this interview? Because I wanted to tell your story. And you said, well, if it means that it could help someone like it helped me when I saw John's video, I'm all in. And if you could send a message to people who are struggling, and what would it be to close out this video?
Yeah, I will say it very similar to how Rip said it. And I will. So look, if you are in this situation and you need an opportunity, you are out of the military, whatever you did, you didn't have to be an infantryman. Um, I just happened to be one, and so was John. Um, but if you got out and you thought you had a plan but didn't, now you're struggling. Now you're not sure what you're going to do next. And you just need somewhere where you can give and receive the same amount of thing, one for one. As much as you put in, you will get out of it. You need to get a hold of Ina. or John, and you need to reach out to Starting Strength because they can put you to work.
Mm.
And you will have to do things. You will have to make sacrifices. I had to move from Florida to Texas away from my family for a while to get in, but you have to do whatever you have to do,
Mhm.
and Starting Strength will return the favor. It's worth it. You should do it, and you should do it right now.
Mhm. I'm really excited to see all of the future people that you're going to be getting strong. I'm excited to see you in a new position coaching on the platform. And I look forward to hanging out in person and sharing some pizza, possibly.
Absolutely. Pizza and whatever else we can eat.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. You'll do the weight gaining. I feel like I'm going to tap out
Yeah.
right here.
Hopefully I'm 220, 225 next time.
Nice. And that squat is up and deadlift is up.
Yeah, I feel like I could be 240 and Rip's still gonna tell me to gain weight. So
Yes, it's
we'll
usually the
see where I stop. I don't know.
That's usually the case. Well, the future is bright, and I absolutely love speaking with you. From the moment that we had our first phone call to today, I love watching you make progress and get strong and be happy and find your path again. So, congratulations, and I'm excited to see what happens at Starting Strength Boston.
Thank you. Me too. It's people like you, Ina, who have been supportive from the beginning, not just a hiring person, not just someone who picks people and closes out the email and skips it. I mean, you've been every step of the way reaching out, trying to make sure I was progressing. The coaches, making sure I'm doing my work, making sure I'm progressing. Everyone
Indeed.
constantly reaching out, like, hey, how are things going? How are you doing? Focus on this. This is what's coming up next. All of the people, all of the support from Starting Strength, it just makes me want to work harder. Just makes me
Yeah,
want to be a coach even more than I do now. And so I will do it.
I know it. I know it. And shout out to your wife for, supporting you all this way, no matter what, having to share
Yeah.
you with your dream and your passions and allowing you to build that future for
Yes.
all of you. So
Without her, I would not be here.
yes, indeed. Well, thanks for joining me today.
Thank you for
And
having me.
we'll do a part two when you're a coach.
Sounds good.
Okay.